Hello and welcome to episode 1402 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Tuesday, April 15th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer. Joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, happy Jackie Robinson Day and unhappy tax day. How's it going?
Jackie Robinson Day is always a great day. Tax day is always a terrible day. So, yeah.
We were saying offline, we wish that they would have, obviously not what they were thinking about at the time, but could have had his debut the day before, the day after, so he wouldn't get associated with such a bad day. Although, as I'm thinking about it, he softens the blow of a shitty day.
Yeah.
Because, we got to deal with tax day, but then we can be like, at least it's Jackie Robinson Day. And of course, the pioneer that he was, I don't watch 42 every year, but it's been a few years. And so I started watching it just before we got to potting, and I'm going to finish it later today. It's such a good movie. And rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. You've never seen it?
Yeah, I need to.
I know you're not the biggest movie guy, but you got to remember, it's so good, dude.
Yeah, it's just hard for me to sit down and actually focus for 3 hours because I'm just so busy. Not because I can't focus, but it's one of those I don't want to watch in the background.
It's not a second screener, right?
Yeah.
Even me on a rewatch, I think this is probably the fourth time I've seen it. I still find myself this is where my second screen is, and where you are, which is why I'm always looking over here. I find myself pivoting over and not really focusing on my work. So I hear you on that, and I know how crazy busy you are, but put that on your list, dude. You will not regret it. That is a fantastic movie, and not just for a baseball movie. It's just a great movie. And I know you're a big history buff as well. I think they get a lot of stuff, and they do it very well. And what I really liked about the movie is they didn't try to go too broad with it. It's got a relatively narrow focus. I mean, it covers a decent amount of time, but I don't like the biopics that try to cover from birth to death. You can't really do that. And what I also hate, unrelated, is when people say biopic. Punch yourself in the throat if you ever say biopic.
I go back and forth because I always say biopic, and then biopic told me it was biopic, and then
whoever told you that is an idiot. I'm sorry.
It was probably my wife.
Well, she's not an idiot. I'm afraid of her. So, she's smart, but she got one wrong. And even Danielle, not above reproach. So I'll tell her to her face, it's not biopic. And then I'll get punched in the throat, and then I'll run away like a coward.
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe not the throat, maybe the chest. She's not really tall enough to reach her.
That's true. Unless she Super Mario's me, or no, I'm thinking of the Punch Out guy, the Lil Joe. She's gonna have to hit me with the uppercut there to get me in the throat. So you're right, probably a chest shot. But let's be honest, I'm not the most well-built person, so that's gonna knock me out too.
Yeah.
Let's just be real about it. Anyway, let's get into some baseball. Last time you and I spoke, well, actually it was the 2-start, but the last non-set topic that we had when we were talking about some pitchers that were kind of on the rise, doing well after 2-3 starts and kind of seeing where they're at. Today, we're going to go the other way with it. And, with all these, and I lament it every year, and I've even talked about it this year, content's tough at this time of year. It's part of the reason that we're not losing our minds if our schedule doesn't work and we have to skip one of the episodes early in the season. We want to keep you guys with plenty of episodes once the season gets rolling here. And we're about a couple weeks from that where I start to feel more confident. But it can be tough because you don't want to overreact. You don't want to underreact, right? Like what? Some of these guys that are struggling right now, they're going to have bad seasons. Do we know which ones right now? We don't. But I'm going to try to put you to the test to kind of see where you're at with some of these guys. If some of their problem areas, and I'm looking at strikeout rate, stuff plus rate, and strikeout minus walk for a group of guys that have got some pretty rotten numbers. And I want to see where you're at. But first, we have to talk about a big injury and what you think this team should do. Not 100% fantasy related unless they go out and trade for somebody big. But the Cubs lost Justin Steele for the year. And I looked at the rundown from Sunday, and I see you guys did not talk about it. So maybe it wasn't confirmed yet.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. I don't believe it was confirmed at that moment.
I was pretty nervous once I saw the second opinion. We've talked about that. I think we talked about it with Jared Jones. The second you start seeing that, it's not 100% that it's bad, but it's bad. You get nervous at that point. So Justin Steele out for the year. This Cubs team is good though. They got a great lineup. They still have some pretty good starters, although we are going to talk about one of them during our struggling SP section. Ben Brown gets his spot a little bit more secured here, but I don't think as is they can go all the way. I think they need to address this, and I think they should be aggressive. Should they be knocking the door down of Miami to go get Sandy Alcantara right away? Or do they go and make a smaller move? What should the Cubs be doing here to cover for Steele, in your opinion?
And I mean, they probably should be knocking down the door to go get Sandy. I mean, obviously, I was lower on Sandy coming into the year, so there's part of me that just goes, I don't know if that's really the wisest move. But that being said, from like a real life baseball perspective, I think you have to. You need to go get somebody.
He's a free agent after this year. Is that right?
Yeah.
I would want some assurances because they're gonna have to pay, right? I would want to try to ink him beyond this year. Oh no, they would have him next year.
Yeah, they have him next year, and a club option in 2027, which I assume isn't going to be very super expensive.
21 mil, which by the time that he's back, that should be fine. So you can get up to 2+ years. We'll call it 2.5. I mean, it's not a half year if they traded for him like in the next 4 or 5 weeks, but teams don't usually trade that early. Although Luis Ariz was traded from this Miami team pretty early last year, so maybe they get motivated again. So you would have multiple years of Sandy. So your concerns about him coming back from TJ and maybe being a bit inconsistent, that's valid, but they could look at it as a big picture thing. Not only are they trying to address this year, but then when Steele comes back and Imanaga,
it's not a rental. So and it would provide them a lot of stability in a rotation that really now needs it. I mean, obviously Shota Imanaga is, great. And we're going to actually talk about him here in a minute, but like the rest of that rotation is very much suspect. It's Matthew Boyd, who's 34 and has had
good talent, rotten health profile.
Yeah. And 34, right? Like it's that's difficult. Ben Brown, who's super unproven. Ray, who is about as mid gets. Jameson Thompson, who's had health issues galore. So like they could use another arm in this rotation that just kind of gives them innings, stabilizes them. Will they go out and do it? I don't know. Like they went and did the Kyle Tucker deal, but that was a rental. Maybe they would be more interested in a short-term fix as opposed to a long-term deal.
They got to be looking at Tucker as the opportunity to sign him long-term, though, right? I would hope. With what
I would hope, but I can't imagine they're actually gonna do it, right? If you're Tucker, you're not signing a long-term deal unless you're getting $500 million.
Why can't the Chicago freaking Cubs?
They can, but they haven't.
Don't even get me riled up on that. If they,
I saw something like they've only given out like one deal over $100 million or something like that.
It's been really bad. By the way, can you hear me? My mic keeps trying to like turn my volume down.
You went down a few times, but you sound okay.
But it's like auto doing it because I turn it back up and then it does it again. So anyway, they have not been spending money. I feel like I can forgive all their times where they didn't spend if they do it here. I feel like this has to set up to spend on Tucker. So I don't want to get too far afield on that since we're talking the pitching, but I think this is a really big opportunity for them to go attack this early with a legit starter, somebody like Sandy, bring along a reliever or two from Miami. Even though they don't have a great bullpen, I think this Cubs bullpen needs more arms. So even if it was just Anthony Bender, who's like not a stud, but like capable, I think they got to do something though, because I'm not even sure they can win the division with this rotation, let alone winning the NL.
Yeah, I think they can win this division. I think one of the reasons why they decided they weren't going to necessarily like go all out this offseason, like they did make the Tucker move, which was a big move, but like I felt like they were one more move away from just saying like this is our division. Is because no one in that division decided they wanted to do anything. So like why, like as much as I think the Cubs should be an organization that goes out and spends a bunch of money, like does the Dodger thing, does the Yankee thing.
Right.
One of the reasons they don't have to is because they don't have a Padres or Red Sox in their division that is going to challenge them. Right. Like, and so like when you see a team like the Brewers who won that division fairly handily, actually get worse in the offseason.
Yeah.
Like, why are you going, why do we need to?
The reason that you're still being aggressive though is then don't you start thinking bigger picture and start thinking about like how do we stack up against the rest of the NL at that point if you're the Cubs?
I think the expanded playoffs, which I love, by the way. I'm not crapping on the expanded playoffs. I think the expanded playoffs has made a lot of teams go, hey, October is about getting hot. It's not necessarily about the best team always wins.
Sure.
You look at my Giants winning 3 World Series, like they were never the best team in any of those years.
Especially in 2012.
And now it's easier to make October. So all we got to do is make sure we're good enough to make October, and then what happens, happens. Why like, build these super teams when all it takes is someone on a short series to, knock them out, and we have a clearer path to the end. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
I know you're not, but to counter that thinking, because you're 100% right that is what a team like the Cubs is thinking. Lose your ace to an injury, and all of a sudden your team looks really light. I always like to harp on the fact that like one player in baseball is not nearly as impactful as it is in basketball for obvious reasons, since it's 1 of 5, or even football if it's the quarterback or sometimes a really key defender, but usually the quarterback would be the number one play there. We've seen teams lose big time players in baseball and be fine because you can kind of piece together the work around for them. This is an exception to me. Losing Steele for the Cubs, I think, really sends them from a team that, like, okay, once you get in October and you run Steele, Imanaga, and whoever's looking good between Brown and Boyd or Tyone, cool. That's a pretty good 3. Now all of a sudden it's Imanaga. Are Boyd and Brown even going to get to the finish line? Where's Tyone going to be? What happens if they lose a big bat in the lineup there? The bullpen was already a little shaky. All of a sudden, even though it is just one player, it really brings into picture that they're a little bit of a flawed team here. And the fact that they didn't do much besides the Tucker move is a little bit nerve-wracking. So I think they should go for Sandy. I mean, I think obviously a lot of teams that are contending should be knocking down their door to go for Sandy because, again, it isn't a one-year situation. But the Steele injury sucks, dude. He was pitching pretty well. I was excited to have him. I mean, I got hit by that and Zach Eflin in the same week. So that
the Eflin one really hurt me.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying like I was avoiding Steele. I just didn't end up with him. I don't know why I didn't have the same concerns with Steele that I did with other guys who dealt with elbow issues last year. And this is something I got to kind of think about with my process is I kind of overlooked the fact that he dealt with elbow issues. And I did not really downgrade him like the same way that I downgraded a guy like Brian Wu, right? And so, it is unfortunate.
Because everyone is a big injury risk, and you're finally seeing the light.
No, it's definitely not that. I hope I never see the light.
Why? What is your resistance to that? It is so true.
Oh, right.
No, I don't want you to die either. You know what I mean? But anyway, it sucks about Steele. Obviously, he's a cut everywhere.
Yeah.
Now you're a dynasty leaguer.
Yeah.
Do you go out and try to buy guys like this on the cheap?
Yes.
How cheap does it have to be? Okay.
They're the guy who has Justin Steele in one of my dynasty leagues. Put him out today. I was like, hey, I'll dump him for cheap, and like I plan on sending him a text and being like, okay, what is cheap? Like,
right, you got to see where it's at.
Especially if you can get him like 30 cents on the dollar, I'll take that. Yeah, fine.
I think I would too.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait. He's not gonna be really usable until 2027.
Right. So, although this is early enough that like second half next year there could be some viability from Steele, but it's still going to be the.
I just never love guys coming in that. This is why I stayed away from Alcantara. This is why I stayed away from McClanahan. Like even Strider. This is why I stayed away from all these guys. Like I just don't know what to expect in their first full season back.
Sure.
But I do think that if you're looking long term,
I think Strider going to make you look silly though.
And if he does, he does.
And I wasn't big on Strider, but he's going to be the big case point that people, if he comes back and is pitching well and stays upright, that people use to be more aggressive on the internal brace versus traditional TJ. Because don't forget, he's coming back from that, which is a less invasive, quicker timeline surgery. This internal brace, it is a form of TJ, but it's not the same degree of TJ. And he looks insane. I mean, he had an 11 strikeout game in his last rehab outing. So we'll see. But to your point, I'm not saying that you were wrong on that. I wasn't paying for Strider. He was a top 50 pick by the time you and I were drafting our mains. It was pretty bananas.
And like, I think there are 2 points with this, like that I think are really, really important in the Strider discussion, because he may come back and look fantastic, and people are going, see, this is why you do this. One, I think Strider is just an elite talent. Like,
right. He's an outlier in general.
He's clearly a top 2 or 3 pitcher in baseball when completely healthy. And so like let's not, for future reference, go like, well, Strider did it, why can't Joe Schmo pitcher do it?
Right.
Like that. Those are bad comparisons, right?
No, I do agree with that.
2, it was the price. Like, when you're at pick 50 and you're taking Spencer Strider, you're still passing up an elite pitcher to go take him. So like, I don't think the risk reward ratio was right there.
I don't want to bog our conversation down, but I would say that, like, yeah, you are passing somebody, but he is an elite pitcher, and those pitchers around him probably have similar injury risk. But anyway, we're talking about the Cubs. Let's move.
You could have gotten Spencer Strider or Spencer Schwellenbach, right?
Right. And I heard somebody like that guy.
I did.
I did hear that somebody liked that guy. All right, I'm going to readjust the Are These SPs in Trouble list a little bit, just so we lead right into Shota. So I just moved him to the top there. And so we're going to look at these pitchers here from 3 different categories: strikeout rate, stuff plus rate, and strikeout minus walk rate. And just looking at some big differences from last year, or in the case of the K minus Bibee, some guys that have some very low numbers there, single digits, which is really, really bad. I think league average is 15 or 16% for starters. So if you're talking about single digits on strikeout minus walk, it's really bad. But let's start with the K percentage droppers. And we will start with Imanaga, who you hinted at. So they lose their big lefty, Steele. Their second lefty, they're kind of like 1A to 1A, 1B situation with Steele and Imanaga. He's kind of their 1B. You might wonder why we're talking about him, because you see a 2.70 ERA and an 0.90 WHIP. What's the problem with Imanaga? Minus 10 points on the K rate, Justin, from 25 to 15, and he's doing it all with a 164 BABIP right now. That is 100% what is keeping Imanaga from paying the piper on this K percentage drop. Now, on the plus side, he still has a 14% strikeout minus walk, swinging strike rate. And if you do the decimals, it's only a 0.2% difference, 14.5 to 14.3. Now, I would normally round, so it would be 15 minus 14. That's still a negligible difference. That does give me some confidence that the Ks will come back. Will they come back enough to counter the inevitable regression of the BABIP, but also the fact that his walk rate is nearly doubled from 4 to 8% again, if you're rounding, but from 4 to 7.7, depending on how you look at it. Where are you at on Imanaga? Because through 4 starts, the results are great, but is the under the hood a little scary for you?
No, I'm fine. Like, and I think this goes back to your original point at the open of the show, which is it's really hard to find topics to podcast about at this time of the year, because there's no reason to be worried about Imanaga right now.
No reason?
I don't think there is. I really don't. Like,
I do not agree with that at all. The doubling of the walk. Okay, I'll grant the strikeouts. I'll give those all the way back up to the mid-20s. The doubling of the walk rate, the fact that the home run rate is at 1.2 with an 8% homer to fly ball, which I don't think he's going to live at that rate. He's a fly ball guy. He had a 1.4 last year. I think that 4.4 FIP is not too crazy from what we should be expecting. Like, I'm still super worried about Imanaga. I think he's a high 3s, low 4s ERA guy. And for what you paid, that's not good enough.
I'm not worried at all. The zone contact rate is actually down. The stuff plus on both his fastball and slider are up. Like you mentioned, the swinging strike rate is right there in line with where it was last
That only covers
season.
The strikeouts, though. What about the walk rate?
The zone rate is actually up 2%, which we talked about before. Like, even just minuscule moves in zone rate are indicative of like potential big, changes, right? So he's actually filling up the zone 2% more, which is actually a big jump. I don't think this is going to be anything. There are other guys we're going to talk about on this list that I might be a little bit more concerned about, not necessarily that they're going to like completely fall off, but that maybe the profile is changing, especially like we're going to talk about Nick Lodolo here in a minute. But that being said, with Imanaga, Maybe it is the fact that I was really high on him coming into the season, and I'm not scared by this. It could be. I definitely want to put that out there that I was high on him coming into the season. I don't have any worries about him.
Okay. Well, we'll be tracking him throughout the year because, yeah, he was a divisive guy.
We could talk about it again in like 3 weeks. Get us 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 more starts
for sure.
Belts, and
we'll revisit him
singing a different tune. But right now, the underlying numbers, and this is the hard part about underlying numbers at this point, is that none of them have stabilized. There's not a single stabilized point in the numbers yet. And so as much as I know people are going to want to start like drawing massive conclusions, unless you're seeing something, and this is why watching games is so important, unless you're seeing something mechanically, unless you're seeing a massive change somewhere, like I don't worry too much about these guys that I had a lot of faith in coming in the year.
In fairness, I'm not seeing a massive change. Just all the concerns I had coming in are still there. Mainly the home runs.
But that's how you should be reacting right now, right? Because you had massive concerns coming in. I didn't. So neither of us are seeing much in terms of like a huge change in the profile. So we're both still kind of where we're at.
I just don't know why people didn't have more concern about Imanaga in the first place. He had a 1.4 homer last year and still put up a 2.9 ERA. That's not going to happen. And I don't think that the home run is going to improve. That's what I'm saying. But okay, so you're still good on him. And again, we'll revisit him throughout the season because he's a fun player to keep an eye on. Go ahead.
Like, I mean, here's one of things I'll just kind of like in terms of you mentioned the walk rate, like the walk rate went up, right? It was really just one start.
Like, and that is one thing about strikeout rates. That's
you take off that one start, the first start of the season against the Dodgers in Japan, and all of a sudden, Imanaga's walk rate is just where it was last year.
Here's the thing, though. He needs a 4%, and that's a big ask because that's like best in league type of vibe. Not quite. I think there were some guys that were a little bit better last year. But because here's the bottom line is that the 8% that he has, and again, call it 7.7 if you want to use the decimal there. I just don't think that there's enough precision there for it to matter. But that is already a pretty decent rate on its own. And so it's not like he's been walking the yard. Like you said, it's been one bad start.
Yeah.
But I feel like Imanaga 4% last year, he ranked 4th in the league. And I feel like he needs to be that good to live with all these homers. And that's my concern, is that these homers just aren't going away. So we'll see. We'll see. Let's move on to our next guy here. And this one's really, sorry. The next one's got me spooked. Tanner Bibee doesn't necessarily have me spooked. He also has a 10% drop in strikeout rate. Now, he's not the biggest strikeout guy to begin with. And like we said with Imanaga, his swinging strike rate's still there. So we have no reasons to really be concerned. Bibee is similar. He has a 1-point dip from 12 to 11%. It's something, but it's not earth shattering, but he's lost 10 points here. Do we have concerns that there's something wrong with Bibee's strikeout rate, or is this very similar that it's 3 starts and he's going to get it back as that 11% cashes in more on the strikeouts?
I don't think there's anything wrong with Bibee. I think Bibee is fine. I do think the defense behind him is a little worse, right? Losing Andres Jimenez, I think.
Well, then shouldn't he be going for more? Sorry to interrupt you, but then shouldn't he be going for more Ks to keep the ball out of play?
I think he should be. And he's allowing more ground balls. They're getting through. So I think there is a little bit of concern there in that regard, right? Especially he's got a 220 BABIP, so you would think that's going to actually come up. This could get worse.
Right. If the Ks don't counterbalance.
If the Ks don't counterbalance. I think the Ks will come back. Like you said, swinging strike rate is more in line with where it was last season.
1 point off. Very fixable.
Yeah. I think for me, the big thing is the 11% walk rate. Like that to me.
Yeah, where's that coming from?
Is a little bit concerning because he has been a guy that has, one of the reasons I love Bibee when he was coming up and why I was really high on him last year. And I was pretty high on him this year too. I just don't think I ended up with him anywhere. Was because he's a dude who fills up the zone, and he is not doing that. So we just talked about these minuscule moves in zone rate are massive, right? Talked about like a 2% jump in zone rate for Imanaga tells me like, hey, I think the walk rate's going to be fine.
Does Does Bibee have one bad walk game like Imanaga does?
I'll double check. But right now, his zone rate is 5.5% lower than it was last year.
And like you said, each percentage point is a big deal in a category like zone rate.
Yeah, his last start, he gave up 4 walks and 4 2/3.
Okay.
Now
that's another thing though about Bibee. Doesn't he have 2 games under 5 innings, if I recall correctly?
Well, it has the last 2 games.
So what the hell's up with that?
I think the first one was he just got beat around by the Angels. Like
they hit 52 homers,
4 home runs in that game. So
they're slugging the shit out of the ball.
It's
the Angels
crazy. It is crazy. And part of it was like they like destroyed Tampa in that
they got to go to
Tampa. But like I mean, Bibee doesn't pitch in Tampa. Like, and it was at Los Angeles, his start against them. So, and then the last one was because he walked too many guys, right? He walked too many base
and that was the Royals?
The Royals start, yeah.
Okay.
He faced the Royals twice. He went.
So, it's been
fine in the first one, and then he was not as good in the second round.
Decently difficult schedule with the Angels playing well. We'll give him a little credit. And then 2 against KC. That's not easy, but Bibee has not been super sharp. Now, one thing I will say, he started like this last year. And I remember there were some concerns about him even like 7, 8, 9 starts into the season, and he ended up being totally fine. So I'm nowhere near concerned yet, but I did want to bring him up because a 10-point drop in strikeout rate is pretty big, especially when paired with the near doubling of his walk rate from 6 to 11%, similar to what we saw with Imanaga. By the way, I sent you a little leaderboard with everyone else that we have left to discuss if you want it there. Okay, so you're mostly not concerned about Bibee though, right? You have a little bit of concern?
A little concern. The walk rate thing for me is the big concern.
Nothing actionable though, right? You're not sitting him in any formats?
No.
Me neither.
I'm not sitting him. I'm not selling low on him.
Okay.
But I'm also not going to buy low on him.
That's fine. So, you're not being low on him. Yeah. Okay, I'll leave. I'm sorry. That was terrible.
Wow.
All right. Nick Lodolo, you mentioned him earlier. We need to talk about him. I've got some concerns. And this is very similar to the Imanaga thing, where if you only know his surface stats, you're like, what are you guys crying about? 0.96 ERA, 0.70 whip. This dude's
first thing I thought of when I saw that sheet was like, why are we talking about Lodolo right
I know.
there? And then I went and looked. I was like, oh my God. Like,
it's very bizarre because those are amazing surface numbers. Sub 1 ERA and whip. Justin, he's riding a 1% walk rate, which is amazing, but will never hold. Greg Maddux couldn't hold a 1% walk rate, and a 183 BABIP. Everything else, well, except for the home run rate, that's actually been pretty good too. So, those 3 factors, the walk, home run, and BABIP are great, but everything beyond that sucks shit. 11% strikeout rate, which is terrible, and a 10% strikeout minus walk rate, which is terrible, and 8% swinging strike rate, which, say it with me, is terrible. So the 13-point dip in strikeout rate is what's really got me, especially because unlike Bibee and Imanaga, Lodolo's swinging strike rate is not near where it's been. It's down 50%. I think I did that right. From 12 to 8, that'd be 4 points. Is that 50%? Or do you do the 4 over 12? Is that down? I don't know. I'm an idiot. Anyway, it's down 4 points. I don't know if you do. I never know that. That's why I don't say the percentages. I just say the points. So it's down 4 points, which is big. Swinging strike rate. You cannot afford to lose 4 points. Even somebody like who's like a badass like Strider. If he went from like 20 to 16, that would still be a big dip. 16% swinging strike would be great. But anytime you're dropping 4 points off your swinging strike rate, that's a big deal. So what's going on here? Lodolo's been able to not face the punishment for these bad metrics. Is a reckoning coming for him, or can he figure it out before the punishment comes for these bad numbers?
So this may be the most interesting guy that we're talking about today.
I think so too.
In terms of what we're seeing, because what we're seeing is almost a complete profile change.
Mm-hmm.
He is throwing the fastball less and the sinker more. He is throwing the curveball less and the changeup more. He's trying to induce contact. He's throwing it in the zone more. And he's getting more ground balls. This is not the profile of the Nick Lodolo that we've known. Now, here's the thing: like, in some ways, we go, "Hey, like the results are still good outside of the strikeout." So, like, I think he's probably going to keep doing it. And teams don't care as much about strikeouts because it gets their pitcher out of innings quicker as long as the end result is good. So this kind of may be just a new Nick Lodolo. Now we could just go like this could just be like 3 or 4 starts and like all of a sudden like in a week or two we're like or 2 or 3 weeks we're like, oh no, he's just Nick Lodolo. He went back. Like maybe it was a game plan. We saw that. I mentioned this on Sunday with Jason and James. Like the Pirates after the first week of the season were on a historic stolen base pace, right? And then they stole 2 bases since then.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't notice that they stopped running.
Sunday. Like, so yeah, they stole like 19 bases in the first week of the season, and then they've stolen 2 since then. Like, wow. Like so, like it was clearly, hey, we're identifying something against this team,
against the Marlins. Yeah,
we know that we can run against these guys at will, and we're going to.
Wow.
So, like, again, like this is why early season content is so difficult, is because as much as like right now it looks like a massive change in the pitch mix and kind of profile of Nick Lodolo, it may be nothing.
That's true.
But this is definitely something to keep an eye on, because is Cincinnati the place I want to see Nick Lodolo induce more contact? It's not. I don't want to see him induce more contact there. That scares the crap out of me. And it limits his upside, because if he goes from a guy who can strike everybody out to a guy who is currently at an 11% strikeout rate,
striking nobody out.
Like, I mean, dude's been close to a 30% strikeout rate before, a guy in the majors, and now like we're talking about 8 and 11%. Like, that is not enticing for fantasy either. So I definitely want to watch. This is one I want to watch. Like, I don't have an answer, because it's not like there's anything like his fastball was really good and his changeup was really good. It's like, I don't know why they're going away from those pitches. I don't know if this, like I said, this could easily just be like the teams he was facing. Like, hey, these guys don't hit.
You faced your boys 2 against the Giants.
Maybe they're like, hey, they really struggle with off-speed stuff, so we're gonna go.
Could it also be health? He's had so many health issues. Lodolo has.
It absolutely
could. He be changing the mix to save his arm?
We don't want you throwing a lot of pitches. Right. So we're gonna pull you at 85 pitches every game. So if you want to go deep into a game, you're going to have to pitch more to contact and get out of innings quicker. It absolutely could be. It's hard to know.
We don't know yet.
Unless we see something from him or from the team, or this trend continues, we really just don't know.
I think that is fair. And I don't think it's super actionable. He has a 2-step that starts tonight, Seattle and Baltimore, and we gave him the go-ahead on Friday.
I would say this could be a really good sell high point.
Right. Especially if he dominates tonight against Seattle. If he
dominates tonight, but it looks the same and the strikeout rate is, isn't super high tonight, like this might be the perfect time to go say, hey, this guy's a bad health history. The change in profile means I'm going to get a lot less strikeouts. We don't know how good Cincinnati's going to be in general. Like all of a sudden he's a 2-category pitcher in one of the worst pitching environments in baseball. I think this, like, I'm going to tomorrow write a buy low, sell high piece. If Nick Lodolo goes out and looks exactly the same and pitches fairly well, I'm going to have him on my sell high piece.
Let me ask you this. If this 2-start goes off pretty well, but the skills are fundamentally the same, these weakened skills that we've seen, do you start Nick Lodolo in Colorado in shallower formats next week?
Yes.
Just because you got to keep riding with it.
I think you just got to ride with it.
I think I would too. And I come in as somebody who was I was off on Green and Lodolo because of Cincinnati pitchers with home run issues. I was nervous about both. They're both making me look stupid. Although Green is actually backing it up, whereas Lodolo is just.
I think Green just might be a stud.
He just might be. And I want to be fair. Throughout draft season, you guys can feed me the L at the end of the year if he ends up being an ace. I'll gladly eat it. But I did acknowledge that, like, I'm actually rooting for him. I like Hunter Green. I want him to be good. The reasons that I faded him, and this isn't just cope and trying to couch my L, it's just a guy with his home run issue in Cincinnati scared me. And he still had a 9% walk rate. And I was just like, I don't really buy this. Well, he cut the walk rate down to 4%. He's not allowing homers. He looks unbelievable so far. But we'll see. It's been 4 starts for Hunter Green. just relax, folks. You guys want to feed me the L so quickly. If he's as good as you think he is, there'll be plenty of time to rub it in my face.
Yeah.
But you're asking for trouble by trying to dunk on me 4 starts in, because it can only go the other way for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Lodolo we're sticking with despite some of these concerns, and we'll continue to watch him. I think he's one to watch throughout the early part of the year here to see where these skills go. All right, moving on from Nick Lodolo, we go to the Stuff Plus guys. José Soriano, a guy I really like. You know my affinity for Angels pitchers. I inexplicably love way too many of them. But he's probably one of the most talented ones that we've seen in these recent years in terms of his pure stuff. It hasn't been there so far this year, though. He has a 12-point drop in Stuff Plus, which is pretty substantial because it goes from being nicely above average to 95, which is 5 points below average. Like all the other plus numbers, 100 is average, and every point below is a percentage point worse, and every point above is a percentage point above. So 95, that's not that good. Now, he is countering it with a 113 location plus. So maybe there's been like a concerted change here for José Soriano to throw a little lighter, because he is throwing a mile slower at 97.8, which is still nice, but maybe not throw as hard with a little bit more control. The funny thing about that, though, the location plus is up, but the walk rate is too, from 10% to 11%. So what's going on here with Soriano? Because this is yet another guy whose surface results are great. 2.70 ERA, 1.0 whip, but I have some concerns once we look under the hood. Can he maintain an 81% left on base rate? No, that's a reliever type left on base rate. 217 BABIP, that will regress as well. So where do we go from here with the big Stuff Plus drop for José Soriano? Any reasons for concern there, or is he just kind of figuring himself out?
I think he's probably figuring himself out. I also think that it went to Tampa Bay, and that is a really, really tough environment to pitch in. And maybe he was like, hey, I'm going to have to try to do some things a little bit differently. And it was coming off of a bad start. So maybe it's just a little in his head. I wouldn't be overly worried about this. I'd have to talk to Eno about when he feels Stuff Plus kind of stabilizes.
I think it's pretty fast.
I think
and that's part of the beauty of it.
Still, three starts probably isn't enough to start passing judgment on him. He's looked good when I've watched him pitch. I mean, that's all I can say. Like, I don't see anything in the profile that tells me like, hey, this is a guy that I need to be worried about. Like zone rate, right in line. Zone contact rate has always been a little bit high on him, but right in line with where it was last year.
Third best ground ball rate. Sorry, I thought you were done there. Yeah. Third best ground ball rate for José Soriano as well at 65% behind only Andre Palante and Yamamoto. So that's really good.
Yeah, he does not give up home runs. I have very, very little concern on José Soriano. I didn't start him this week, but it had nothing to do with him and just more to do with the other guys on my team.
How deep of a league?
I think it's my main event.
You good enough that you don't have to start José Soriano? Must be nice, dude. Must be freaking nice, bro.
My pitching is that good. My offense is terrible. My pitching
I lost Steele and Eflin, so I would have been killing to have somebody like Soriano.
Don't feel too jealous of me. You know why I did it? So I could 2-start Taiwan Walker.
Oh.
Yeah. So don't feel that great.
In fairness, I tell y'all to not jump on the train with me. I said, let me crash by myself with Taiwan Walker.
I was on that train, like I said on Friday. Like I picked him up the week before to have him ready for this 2-start, and my own team did it to me. So,
I know. I
at
love
least he
him,
gets the Marlins at the end of the week.
And hopefully you don't get Grant Holmes where we got rained out of a Marlins start after taking the Dodgers one. Speaking of brutal. The Dodgers,
though, his starts on Saturday. So.
Okay, good. So then if it got pushed to Sunday, you would at least have another day there. Let's talk about the Dodgers and one of their pitchers. You know, they're kind of coasting a little bit. They got off to the fast start, and then you talk about early season content for fantasy. It's not much easier for regular baseball either, like watching MLB Now, and they're trying to like not make too much of like, are the Dodgers in trouble? They're 10-4, but they lost like 3 series in a row, so we have to pretend that it's something. But Tyler Glasnow, I don't know. I know you're not the biggest fan because of his health profile, which is understandable. You've never suggested that he isn't great on a per inning basis, but he's got some flaws going right now. He has minus 11 points in Stuff Plus. Like Soriano, it's dipped down below a league average to 96. His Location Plus is even worse. He has a 16% walk rate thanks to an 84 Location Plus. That's really terrible. And just for reference, last year he had a 108 Stuff Plus, so it's minus 12 points, and a 100 Location Plus, so that's minus 16 points. So both of his plus metrics are pretty terrible right now. Do we have any reasons for concern there? And I think the biggest reason would be if you think it means that he's hurt, because there's also a 6-point dip in swinging strike rate for Tyler Glasnow as well. So yeah, people that aren't watching on YouTube, Justin is mischievously nodding right now. I think you're going to have some issues here with Tyler Glasnow. Talk to us.
Now it's time to panic. Fastball velocity is down a mile per hour. I think it was, I want to say it was his curveball velocity is down 2 miles an hour. His O swing, which, you know, is how many times or how often he can get people to swing outside of the zone, is down from 29% last year. And he's been about a 30% guy all his entire career, down to 17.5% right now.
Good Lord. So people
25% is around league average. So he is 6.5% below league average.
That's terrible, dude.
His zone contact was 83.5% last year, 85 league average, right? So he was, you know, he was getting guys to not make contact in the zone below league average, which was great. This year, 91%. His zone percentage is down 3.5%. Remember, I said zone percentage, small percentage changes, a 1% change matter. 3.5%. Like you mentioned, the swinging strike rate is down tremendously. Like, yeah, it's time to panic.
So what do you do here? Because obviously you're not going to cut him. We know that.
No, I mean, if you're like in an NFBC context where you can't trade, you're just riding out with it. If you are in a trading league, I would try to see if I can get 70 cents on the dollar.
You would take a discount. You say, hey, I'm looking to sell. Yep. I'm taking a discount. I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, but I want out.
Yeah.
Now, are you in, let's say in the NFBC context where you're not cutting him and you can't trade him, are you still starting Glasnow everywhere?
Probably, but I don't want to.
But not confidently.
I mean, like, you know.
You kind of have to, though, right?
I think you kind with the Dodgers, like, people are starting Landon Knack and stuff. Like,
and Justin Robleski.
Yeah, like, I would start you if you were in a Dodgers.
Thank you.
Like,
appreciate that.
Like, I mean, it's nothing to do with you. It's just a team around.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I thought it was because you really liked the way my curveball was developing.
No. Sorry. Well, elite extension, but that's it.
Thank you. That's all I got going for me. Yeah. And a lot of levers, dude. I'm deception.
And this could be one where, like, hey, like, he's still kind of getting going. He missed the end of last season.
Right.
He's rusty. Like, this could be a Blake Snell situation where all of a sudden, like, hey, he sucks at the beginning, and all of a sudden he is the best pitcher in baseball halfway through. So, like, if you don't want to sell, I get it. I totally get it. But I had massive concerns on him coming into the season.
That you did. Any world where you buy Glasnow, is there a price cheap enough?
If he's free.
Not a price cheap enough that is realistic.
I'll tell you. The questions I get in my chat are often things like, someone just dropped Yainier Diaz.
Oh, my goodness.
Should I pick him up? There are leagues where Tyler Glasnow will get dropped. If he gets dropped, I'm picking him up. Even though I don't necessarily believe him, I think this is a ticking time bomb and that this is going to end up with him getting elbow surgery at some point. I'm still picking him up, and I'm riding that roller coaster. Like,
you got to at that point.
But that is the only scenario in which I'm doing that.
Okay. Your big concern coming in, of course, is the draft capital that you have to spend on somebody like Glasnow. So if they get cut, that's a totally different calculus.
It's all the pitchers I feel are much safer going around Glasnow with similar upsides, right? Like,
no,
that's why I was out on Glasnow. But if he's free or like super cheap, Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and he will get cut in some leagues, and somebody listening might be facing that situation. Go get him for sure. It's going to be very rare, though.
I'm not cutting him. If you are
I wouldn't
if
either.
you are in a
You
10-team league and you're like, I can't use him, then throw him on your bench. Like, don't
cut him.
I'm waiting for the news that says like, oh, he's getting Tommy John surgery.
Because the Snell comparison is perfect here, where I do think Glasnow could be very Snellian and, create this situation where you're like, oh, if I jump too quickly off of him, then I'm really going to burn myself because he clicks, and then all of a sudden he's a badass. Okay, so we're holding tight with Glasnow, but Justin has some concern. I'm not free of concern, but I am definitely waiting and seeing, and I'm keeping him in the lineup. Now, this is a guy I came into the season sour on, and I don't want to take a victory lap on 3 starts because I'm not an idiot. I do look at this, though, with Yusei Kikuchi, and I'm like, well, this is like all the concerns I had, showing themselves 3 starts in. But again, it's 3 starts, so I do think it is a little too early to be like, saying, hey, I got this one right. But it's minus 11 points in the stuff. The homers are back in full force. And then worse yet, Justin, is he's not missing bats. And that was supposed to be the saving grace for Kikuchi, that even if the ratios were a bit wobbly, at least you're going to get those Ks. But now we're looking at a 9% swinging strike rate, which is 4 points off of his pace from last year, and a 22% strikeout rate, which is 6 points off pace. So the stuff is way down to 93 stuff plus. What's going on with Yusei Kikuchi? Is he going full Tyler Anderson on us?
No, he is who we thought he was, but we let him off the hook. People like this is. I think we already had this conversation with Kikuchi, right? Like
we probably did during like a 2-star combo or something.
Yeah, I think we did. Like he.
He was on Fridays. Sorry, he was on Friday's episode.
This is who Kikuchi is. Like he suckers you in, and then you.
My only pushback before you go any further. 9% swinging strike rate is nowhere. He's always been 12, 13. So this is a big dip from that. What do we do there? Is this just 3-start blip or indicative of trouble? Because the home runs, you're right. That is Kikuchi all the way. Even the 2.0. He had a 2.1 for 100 innings back in 2022. But what about the strikeouts? Because that's the concern right now with Kikuchi.
I think they'll be there. I think they'll be fine.
Okay.
Like, I'm not like overly worried about like his first start of the season. He had an 11.5% swing strike rate. He got a 31% O swing. Like I think it's still in there. I don't think this is a Tyler Anderson situation where he forgot how to pitch.
Right. Okay, that's cool.
I just do think that this is Kikuchi, who is from start to start is going to be frustrating. He will go on a tear at some point, and and people will be like, "Look, it's happening! I knew it!" Like, and then all of a sudden he'll disappear again. Like this is just who Kikuchi is. Like the hot streak just was extended last year, and at the end of the season, so it was the last thing people thought about at the end.
And a new team, so it felt like this new team.
Look, they made a change. But
and I don't know that they did. I don't know if he didn't just change on Houston, and I gave Houston credit too, so I'm part of that, was saying like, oh look, Houston figured it out, they unlocked it.
And I know there was a pitch mix change and all that, like when he got to Houston, but
it was very simple though. It was just like throw more sliders. So I don't even know if they told him that.
Yeah, like it's I just think this is who Kikuchi is, and why I did not fall for it again this year.
I didn't either. I was very
first year. I finally was like, I'm not doing this again.
A guy that did draw concerns from a lot of folks, even as a high-end, fantasy ace. Like he was still getting ranked up there, he was still getting drafted up there. But I feel like a lot of people held their nose when they drafted Corbin Burns as kind of like a flawed ace, and he's down 10 points in stuff plus. Now, unlike the other guys, his 10-point dip still keeps him above average because he was working from such a high end, from 113 down to 103. But his location plus is down 12 points from 104 to 92. And that might be the even bigger issue. He's got a 13% walk rate, which is more than double his 6% from last year. Is this the fears that people had of Corbin Burns coming to fruition, or 3 starts that people are molding to fit their concerns and thus trying to make a bigger deal out of?
I think it's weird, and I hate to say it because I've loved Corbin Burns. Like this does feel like an actual skills degradation.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, all of a sudden you're seeing a guy who was almost always above 30% in terms of O swing at 28%, which again, still better than league average, but it is a little concerning. You're seeing that zone rate drop, 1.5%, right? It's a bit, it's that is bigger than I think people would think of from 1.5%. The swing and strike rate is down 3%. I am a little bit concerned by this. That being said, like, I don't think this means he's going to be a bad pitcher. I think Corbin Burnes is going to end up being fine.
Okay.
But I don't think we're going to see another sub 3 ERA. This is maybe more of like a 3.50 ERA. And that isn't what you drafted as your SP1. If you got SP1 or even as your SP2 necessarily, right?
Right.
But you're taking him as an early SP2, you were going, I'm getting SP1s, right?
If he's your SP2, that's still a premium that you put out then, because you had to get a starter probably you want like Skeens Burns or something, or Scooble Burns.
Does feel like the life on his pitches. Like go watch him pitch and like you see like, oh, the life just isn't on these pitches that it was.
I do agree with that.
And so this is one I am a little bit more concerned about. I don't know if it's actionable.
That was my next question.
Especially with how bad the results have been so far. Like, it's really hard to be like, okay, well, the underlying skills are definitely degrading. But like, hey, like with Lodolo, it's like, it's an easy, hey, you're going to sell high on this guy right now. Like you just, the ERA, the whip are great. People will buy into that and be like, the strikeouts will come back. With Burns, you're really going to have to take like, 60 to 70 cents on a dollar.
Because this was
I want to do that because
right?
I think he's actually going to be worth that 60 or 70 or maybe 80 cents on the dollar. Like I don't want to then trade that.
So would you go pay that then? Would you go try to get him at the 50, 60 cents on the dollar?
If I could get 50, 60 then and try to get that extra 10, 20%, then I probably would.
You, I think I know the answer to this, but would you do a little challenge trade and trade Lodolo for Burns?
Yes, I would do that. I'd also try a Burns for Glasnow, or like trade Glasnow for Burns, right?
Right. I can see that. Would you?
That's where I thought you were going.
I think that one's pretty interesting. And that one probably has a lot more opportunity to get done. I don't know that you're going to get Burns for Lodolo right now, even with Lodolo pitching well. I think that would probably get some pushback. Would you add something with Lodolo? If obviously I just something medium.
Small. Yeah.
Right. Okay. What about this guy's not on our list anywhere. In fact, he's been pitching very well. Would you do like Luzardo? Would you sell high on him? Because now he's not only pitching well, but also has a lot of metrics that are working well underneath the hood. Would you trade Luzardo for Burns? Like sell high on him?
Yes.
You said that. Sorry, I was taking a drink there. You said that a little bit cautiously. Are you sure?
I think the only thing that scares me right now about Luzardo is the health, right? Like he's just.
But that's a reason to trade him. No. So wait. Would you trade? You would trade Burns to get Luzardo, or vice versa?
No. Luzardo to get
Burns. Okay.
But there is part of me goes like, hey, what if Luzardo does just stay healthy? Like Luzardo might be an SP1 if he just stays healthy. Like
for sure. Well, I don't want to say he for sure is. I'm saying that is for sure a legit possibility that if Luzardo stays healthy, he can be a fantasy ace. I do agree with that.
So, but there's part of me that's like, I don't know if I want to do it, but I can understand. Like I don't think that is a bad.
That's a true buy low though, right? When people talk about buy low, I think too often they talk about guys who's underneath the hood is like so obviously good that people aren't really selling them. But Burns came in with negativity. Everything under the hood looks like crap. And you have to pay like a pretty good price. Glasnow, Imanaga, Luzardo, Lodolo. These are like legit pitchers because it would almost certainly be Lodolo plus. And so you do have to
Luzardo plus. Like
it probably would. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that there are some compelling trades out there, though.
I don't think I would do Luzardo plus. So I don't know. I think
I would try to hold firm. I would try to hold firm on a 1-for-1 there and really see if I could buy low.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this next guy. Spoiler alert, man. I got no hype for him. I'm sorry. So I'm already giving away my answers.
Yeah, me too.
Tanner Houck, man, and I think we talked about it during the 2-star episode. But it was. It's already ruined. The week is ruined. And guess what, folks? He's still got Does he have a good matchup on the weekend? Oh, yeah, he does. He has the good one, the White Sox. But even a shutout against them will not cancel out the damage that was done yesterday at Tampa Bay. And another victim of this Tampa Bay stadium.
Because, like, Walker, like, if Walker goes out and shoves, like, I'm going to be like, okay, I think it was still fine.
Right.
To go with that 2 start, right?
But you can't fix 11 earned.
No, not 2 and a third or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can throw that out. The 2-step is busted here. Yes. I would still start him against the White Sox, even in daily leagues, by the way. I'd try to recoup some of that value. Maybe not, right? Yeah.
I don't think I would.
As soon as I said it, I didn't feel good about it. God, maybe I wouldn't. All right. Are you cutting Houck in like a 15-teamer right now?
In a 15-teamer, probably not.
Are you?
I think it's borderline. I'm not starting him. Honestly, no. I think I'm cutting. I think I am cutting him because, like, right now, I am scared to start him against the White Sox. Then when are you gonna ever use him? Like, you just
exactly.
Can't, yeah. No, I think he should be cut probably.
And the thing of it is, I don't think you have to like convince yourself that, like, oh, it's only 4 starts. As we talked about during the 2-step episode, this is the second half of last year plus another 4. Like, this has been bad now for a while from Houck. The outlier at this point is the first half of 2024.
Yeah.
Not vice versa. I've got grave concerns about Houck right now. I have
his only plus pitch right now is his slider, and he's throwing it less than he did last year.
Great. Yeah.
Which begs the question, like, is he hurt? Like,
and protecting himself.
I feel like this is an injury. Like, I do. Like, I mean, I was never high on Houck to begin with, but I just never loved his mechanics and his ability to read them. But I do feel like there's something else going on here. Like, I don't know how he's this bad.
I'm trying to concoct a trade to entice you, and everything I keep coming up with, I know you would say no.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Yeah, like because if you think it's going to blow up, I wouldn't trade any asset player that I have any interest in.
Yeah. No.
So would you pick him up off the wire?
No.
I don't think I would either. Because
he was available in one of my 15-team leagues. I didn't put a bid on him.
I really don't blame you. And I don't think we're overreacting to 4 starts here, folks. I just don't see the juice with Tanner Houck right now. I'm fully out. And, this is a guy we'll probably monitor throughout the year if he stays healthy and everything. But I just don't see where you're getting the upside.
There's literally nothing in the profile right now that makes me go, oh, hey, at least he's doing this.
No.
Yeah.
And that's even before yesterday's start. And I will say that's even with the good Toronto start, 6 2/3, 1 run, but it was 2 strikeouts. So it was one of those where
K minus Bibee is 2.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't even say that at the beginning. That's why he's on the list. 2% strikeout minus walk. Yeah. That is horrendous, Justin.
I didn't even see that on the rundown.
I would have a better one with the Dodgers, and I pitch next week. Don't worry. Yeah. I'll put up a better than a 2%. No, actually, I wouldn't. So yeah, that's really bad for Houck. I see no upside. Here's the ultimate litmus test. Would you cut in an AL only?
No, I don't think you can do that.
Okay, are you sure?
I don't think there's anybody out on the wire.
Well, I was going to try to come up with somebody.
I think you try to bench him right now. You're starting him against the White Sox in AL only, but like
would you like pick up like Chris Paddock?
Yeah, I'd pick up Chris Paddock because I think Chris Paddock is in that rotation forever. Once Giolito comes back, how can he be the odd man out?
I could feasibly see him being available. What about like the aforementioned Tyler Anderson? He could be available in an AL only. Although he's pitching well, I'm sure he got picked up in an AL only.
Yeah, no, I think
I'm just trying to think of guys who could feasibly
maybe in like
be
an
available.
8-team AL only. I probably cut him. Like
what about like Martin Perez, who's pitching well right now? Would you go for him or Houck?
It's the same picture.
I mean, I know he's Martin Perez. Like we've been around the block with him forever. But
no, I probably just stick with Houck. At least you got the win potential in Boston.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
And he's getting some strikeouts. It's not like it's not like great or anything like that, but like he is getting some. Like
we had the 6 strikeout game at Baltimore, which is what helped him. But the walks, the homers, the hits,
maybe Martin Perez
else.
is. I don't know.
Martin Perez is like a lefty. Taiwan
the fact
Walker
we're having this conversation right now
that tells you everything you need to know.
Like, like the fact it's gotten to this point, like, is
the fact that you can even go, maybe I would do that is vomit inducing.
Yeah.
All right. Our last guy here is probably another one back on the train of like, we're not too concerned here, but I do want to bring it up. Bryce Miller, 7% strikeout minus walk. And like I said, folks, if you're in a single digit strikeout minus walk rate, shit's bad. That is just never good, no matter how you slice it. Again, I think 15% is league average for starters. I'm actually going to look that up. But where are we at with Bryce Miller? Is this just early season struggles here? Because both the strikeout and the walk rates, it's not one or the other. The walk rate is double to 12%. The strikeout rate is down 5 points to 19%. Hits are up. The only thing that's better than last year right now for Bryce Miller is the home run rate is down from 1.1 to 0.6. So that's pretty nice. And he is kind of surviving despite these struggles. Because if you had told me that he's going to have a 7% strikeout minus walk, I would have thought his ERA would be way worse than 4.50. 4.50 is not very good, and a 1.44 whip is legitimately bad. But given how bad the skills have been, that's actually okay-ish for Bryce Miller. Where do we go from here, though? Is this a 3-start blip or something to be concerned about?
I'm not concerned about the strikeout rate. I think he will bounce back there. I am a little concerned about the walk rate. The zone percentage is the zone percentage is down 6%. And we were just talking about like guys with 1.5 or 2% changes having like that's a big deal. We're talking 6% now.
Right.
And his location plus went down from 103 to 88.
Yikes.
That's massive.
Yikes.
Everything else seems to be in line though. Like, I don't know if this is just, he is allowing a lot more contact in the zone. But I guess that may just be a matter of like he's having some command and control issues. Maybe it's just early season. It's cold. It's hard to, make your.
They've been home a good bit. Yeah, it's been Athletics in Texas at home, and then a trip to your Giants, which Seattle and San Francisco are cold.
Maybe,
yes.
Yeah. So like, I think it may just be something like that. I don't think this is actionable. I think you're just holding. I have a lot of faith in Bryce Miller in the changes that he made last year. I'm not overly worried about it yet. Something to keep an eye on. If it can,
we buying then?
Yeah, I'd buy.
I think I would pay full market. You start low, you try to get a discount, but then if the trade partner is balking a little bit, I would come up to the market price and I would pay full market on Bryce Miller. I'm not terribly concerned either. I share.
I think he'll be on my. I think he'll be on my buy low article this week.
14% is the league average for strikeout minus walk, so he's half where he should be. But again, I don't see major
swing strike rates right there though. Like his swing strike rate is right where it was last year. So for me, it's just a matter of like. I think he's just having a hard time commanding and controlling right now. I think he'll be fine.
I think this is that classic situation where if this happened in June, we'd barely notice.
Yeah.
Because he'd have a stack of starts that would be smushing it, and we might catch it and be like, oh, he's been a little bit off lately, but other than that, we're not too concerned. So Bryce Miller, we're staying the course. We're buying. We're very interested. Do not make a move. All right. So there we go. There's our guys. Imanaga, you're not concerned. We're both where we were at the beginning of the year, which is to say you like him. I'm still not so hot on him. Tanner Bibee, we're not terribly concerned. Nick Lodolo, we're a little bit perplexed, although it's not super actionable. We're still starting him. José Soriano, we're actually still pretty interested in, especially with that aggressive ground ball rate that he has. Tyler Glasnow, you're remarkably concerned about. I have some concern. Yusei Kikuchi, he is who we thought he was, and the strikeouts are worse, so we're both a little bit concerned. Burns, we're concerned, but we'd actually buy at the right discount. Tanner Houck, we are fully out, and Bryce Miller, we're fully in. So there we go. There's some SPs who are in trouble right now. By the way, if people have content ideas for the early season, I'm open. I'm happy to take ideas if you guys got something. I'm going to do something with hitters next week, or next episode, I should say. I think Thursday with Joe. Something with hitters, because I think strikeout and walk rates for hitters start to stabilize pretty soon too. Like we're getting to that plate appearance point where not that they're perfect, but they start to have a little bit of merit that we can look into. So I will look at what's the highest. 94 plate appearances for our boy Ian Happ is the most. Well, of course, the Cubs have the higher end. So guys that didn't play the 2 extra games, it's about 80. So we're starting to get to that point, and we'll add Tuesday, Wednesday games before Thursday. So we'll start to look at some hitters there and kind of see where you're at. Justin, enjoy the rest of your day and go watch 42.
I'm gonna take it easy.
I'll talk to you later. Peace.